So just a while ago, GGG revealed their plans for the upcoming 3.15 expansion, and after watching it, it became clear to me that Path of Exile is facing a big issue that grows bigger by the day. But before that, please understand that in my current situation as someone who makes a living by making Path of Exile content, it wouldn't make sense for me to talk bad about this game or its developers. However, I would still do that mainly because I do care about the longevity of this game. So despite all the harsh things that you will hear me saying in this video, please understand that I am only saying them because I really do care about the future of this game. And I hope that any of Path of Exile developers end up finding this video and watching it at some point. Anyway, the problem starts with something like this. You have a team of developers that are in charge of one of the most complicated games on the planet. The game is already hard to get into as is and requires a huge chunk of your daily time to be played properly. However, for some reason, the developers always focuses on making things more difficult by destroying every single popular build and mechanic found in the current metagame. Now understand that someone like me who have played the game for over 6,000 years doesn't really care about the difficulty level, mainly because I can adapt to any change the developers incorporated, no problem. However, by these developers' own admission, they said that a huge part of their player base end up quitting each league before reaching yellow tier maps. Yet despite knowing that, they would still nerf most viable builds and mechanics at the end of every league, then complain about how high the power level is of their top 10% player base. For some reason, GGG believes that looking mostly at numbers and watching few Path of Exile videos on YouTube would give them a good reflection of how the endgame looked like, which is not true. Because as some of you know, most Path of Exile YouTubers are backed by entire teams, which makes some expensive builds possible. If you as a developer would balance your game based on these scenarios, you would be impacting 99% of your player base because they are not YouTubers who are backed by team farming currency for them all the time. What they should be doing instead is looking at how similar build would function in the hands of a casual one player and see if that build is overpowered at low budget or not, and then balance it based on these characteristics. But right now, if GGG sees that a majority of players are playing a build that isn't inherently broken, but just popular, they would still nerf it to the ground, stating that they want you to diversify. As a game developer, you have no rights to decide what's better for your own player base. You only have the rights to develop your game and then let your own player base decide how the balance should be. There is a difference between playing God and developing a video game. If people believe that something doesn't really need to change, then it doesn't need to change. Let it be. What's so difficult about that? Because contrary to what GGG believes, slowing down the game so that it would take you 2 months to reach the end game rather than 1 month is not going to double your playtime. If the game is getting too slow because it's too difficult, people would just get bored and quit midway, and not play extra time. It's becoming obvious at this point that Path of Exile developers are still stuck in the 90s. You know, the good old days of Diablo 2, when people didn't have a choice but to sit down and spend multiple hundreds of hours learning a game because fast-paced games like Battle Royales did not exist. Well, a big news for you guys, times have changed. Right now, if I am not into Path of Exile already, I would not want to spend multiple hundreds of hours learning it when I can just boot up other games that can be learned instantly and are faster. What's the point really of spending time learning something that is not a job for you? People have kids now. People have grown up. They don't have time to learn difficult games. You will have to make things faster and simpler, not harder and slower. But nonetheless, let us go back to the main topic now because I do have an interesting example for you. You see, I have a friend who only plays Necromancer every single league. I told him that he will get bored faster than us and end up quitting early, but to my surprise, his playtime increased with every consecutive league. When I asked him about it, he simply told me that he enjoys playing Summoner, and that's pretty much it. Well, I really couldn't answer to him because, well, everyone to his own thing. I honestly spent time thinking about that simple answer and then found an even simpler explanation. Let people enjoy what they want to enjoy. As long as you are, as a game developer, getting your money that is required to develop the game and pay your staff, don't interfere with their business. Not everyone plays a game like this because they like to diversify. Some people just enjoy doing some stuff the same way every single league, And honestly, power to them. But by forcing them to diversify, they will feel rejected. Not everyone likes to try all the different mechanics in the game, and that's something GGG must understand. Okay, so after hearing all of that, you might ask me, do you want GGG to stop balancing their game? Well, of course not. However, if they want to do that, they should first stop butchering every single skill that is widely used by players in the current metagame. Look at what they have done to Flame Blast. When people used to play it back in the days, GGG killed it entirely, and it was never buffed again. Now look at Winter Orb. GGG annihilated it from the face of the planet. And now look at Blade Vortex, a skill that required a huge amount of investment and a good understanding of the game mechanics like damage conversion, and as a result, it can be put together by an inexperienced player. They still killed it though, even although it was probably already balanced after the first wave of nerfs. I am sure that most of you can agree with that. But yeah, GGG doesn't care, as long as they get you to diversify for some reason, because they think that's what's best for you, then they are going to do it anyway. Look, just to make things clear, I'm not against diversifying. I myself like to play multiple different builds every single league, and that's good. But you can't force it on everyone by nerfing every single build and mechanic they like, because by doing that you will make the game feels less like PvE and more like player versus developer. People end up quitting in this case, and those who doesn't quit, they will end up playing less compared to what they used to before. Like me. These days I hardly open the game unless I want to make a build guide for you guys. Honestly, I kinda wanted to avoid talking about this, but ultimately, some of the changes that the developers have incorporated onto the game, like the one to Harvest, made me not want to play anymore. And before you say anything, yes, Harvest was broken, but at least it made the game more fun to play. Well, that's based on the feedback that people have left after the developers changed it. And in my case in particular, Harvest made me want to play every league longer, because now if I want to try a specific build, I know that I can make it happen the way that I want it to be, because Harvest allows me to make any item I want after spending a decent amount of time farming and grinding. But that was fine by me, because at least it is not random like every other mechanic in this game. What I am trying to say here is that although nobody complained about the high power spike of Harvest, GGG still nerfed it. And that doesn't make any sense because it only had positive impact on their playtime, stating that it is best for their player base. Well, your own player base said otherwise, but you ignored them, and that's what the heart of the problem is. From the outside, GGG seems like a good company that listens to its customers. However, they don't. In reality, they want you to believe that what they think is good for you is actually what's good for you, and not come and ask you what are the changes that you want to be incorporated into the game. And if you don't like their changes, well, tough luck. I personally refuse to play games made by developers with such mentality, mainly because I'm not interested into wasting my time playing in the hands of a developer that wants to play God on me, rather than giving me what I believe is best for my own free time. So moral of the story, if you want to properly balance a video game, first get a subset of your best players, then ask them what the changes should be. After that, incorporate these changes to existing game content without changing something from your own side, aside from adding the new content which you will balance later. And yeah, that's it. That's how you become a good developer who listens to its community, rather than believing that what you know is best for them. And please now, don't throw the argument that only game developers know what's best for their game because they are the one who created it in the first place. That is simply not true, and it was debunked a million times in many different games that have died before this one. What's happening is that developers create a game, they don't play it because they are busy developing it, or at least they don't play it as much as its best players to know what are the key points that needs to be changed. And as a result, they end up blindly shooting spots they shouldn't be shooting, instead of asking these people what are the changes that should be incorporated. No, developers does not know more than their player base. This should be cleared out. Anyway, I'm sorry if this video dragged on for too long, but some stuff had to be said. And if any of Path of Exile developers is watching, please take note, because right now you are fixing things that are not broken in the first place. And that's a recipe of disaster for any successful video game out there. You will just end up pissing people off in the process. And yeah, that was basically it for this video. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one.